There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Man Has a Dream webcast. I'm Josh, and this week I'm starting a new feature, and that's going to be the history behind a ride. I'm going to do a bunch of different rides, parts of attractions, and parts of the parks that just never became, which will be discussed partly in this one. But I felt as though there was no better place to start than a ride that has such a storied history and, the namesake of this webcast and blog came from. And of course, I'm